Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today I will recap for you a horror, mystery, thriller film from 2020 titled The Night House. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Beth is a recently widowed woman having recently lost her husband, Owen, who after 14 years of marriage mysteriously committed the unthinkable. He boarded a small rowboat and floated onto the lake behind the house they lived in together and shot himself with a gun that Beth wasn't even aware that he owned. Beth, still distraught over the tragic loss, spends her nights alone consuming alcohol while aimlessly sifting through Owen's belongings, and watching old homemade videos of the two of them as a couple. In the daytime, she does her best to give others the impression that she is stable and composed while continuing to show up daily for her job as a teacher. Despite her best efforts, Beth remains in a fragile emotional state, snapping back at innocuous questions from her students' parents. Her refusal to mourn properly concerns her friend and co-worker, Claire, as well as her friendly next-door neighbor, Mel. Most perplexing of all is the single handwritten note that Owen left behind, which cryptically reads, "There is nothing. You are safe now." As time marches on, Beth begins to experience strange paranormal events at night, such as loud knocks at the door, the stereo abruptly turning on, and text messages which are received from Owen's phone. Beth dials the number back and someone picks up on the other end, but the only thing heard is a collection of indistinguishable sounds. Beth initially dismisses the events as dreams or hallucinations, but over time, she slowly begins to believe that they are real occurrences. One night, while searching through another pile of Owen's belongings, Beth finds a collection of handwritten floor plans depicting a mirrored replica of their own lake house. As her curiosity continues to grow, Beth looks through Owen's phone and discovers a photo of a woman who looks eerily similar to Beth. She arrives at the natural conclusion that her husband had been involved in an illicit affair. However, after hearing her concerns, Claire recommends that she refrain from digging into Owen's past. During an evening out with Claire and their fellow co-workers, an intoxicated Beth asks the others if they believe in ghosts. When most of the table replies that they do not, Claire agrees that it may be possible to prevent Beth from feeling uncomfortable. Beth then reveals that she was involved in a car accident years ago which left her legally dead for a full 4-minute span. It was during that time when she found herself in a vast world of emptiness, at which point she discovered that there was nothing beyond one's conscious life. Luckily, Beth had been resuscitated, and after recovering in the hospital she shared her findings with Owen, who always took an opposing stance on the matter. The possibility of life after death became a frequent topic of conversation between the two of them, and he had almost changed her viewpoint on the matter before his untimely death. Later, Beth continues on to tell Claire that she had experienced a bout of depression following the accident, and Owen had also begun sleepwalking around the same time. The convergence of the two events causes Beth to worry that she may have somehow been projecting her grief onto her husband. That night, Beth is again awoken by a supernatural presence, which whispers for her to open the front door and walk out. She instinctively follows the audible directive and witnesses several frightened women appear out of nowhere, only to flee past her into the woods and disappear over a cliff. Next, the whispering voice leads Beth to the small wooden boat where Owen had shot himself. There, she finds the watercraft splattered with what appears to be fresh blood, and red footprints leading from the boat back up the dock towards the house. Next, Beth spots a strange set of lights in the distance, and after traversing the lake and trudging the rest of the way through the forest, she discovers the reversed replica of her house that had been depicted in Owen's drawings. Beth gains access to the obscure house by retrieving the key from her own property's normal hiding spot. However, before she can explore any further, Beth suddenly passes out from seeing herself, only to reawaken back in her own lakefront home the following morning. Confused, she crosses the lake again to search for the reverse house, but after walking a considerable distance through the trees she encounters her neighbor Mel, who stops to express his sincere concern for her mental well-being. Eventually, Beth makes her way back to the inverted structure, although this time she finds the walls replaced with plastic, with the interior still empty and unfinished. She takes a quick look around the property and departs after finding nothing, taking a creepy-looking statue that she found with her. Beth takes the statue and confronts Mel with it at his home, accusing him of trying to prevent her from discovering the reverse house. Mel remains adamant that he has no knowledge of the building, but admits he once saw Owen in the woods late at night, accompanied by a woman bearing a striking resemblance to Beth. Later that same night, a disheveled Owen showed up at Mel's door, blood on his hands and the heavy stench of alcohol on his breath. He then confessed to Mel that he suffered from shameful urges, and Mel didn't ask him to explain any further. Hearing this, Beth returns home and frantically rifles through Owen's belongings, discovering more photos of similar-looking women stored on his laptop. Moreover, she finds among his possessions a sketch of the statue she recovered from the reverse house, which is identified in one of Owen's books as a mystic voodoo doll. From his handwritten notes, Beth concludes that Owen had been researching how to trap demonic entities. She travels to the neighborhood shop where Owen purchased the occult books and recognizes one of the women from the laptop photos, named Madeline. Beth confronts the woman about her relationship with Owen, briefly sharing the events of his recent demise. Madeline, though sympathetic to Beth's experience, denies ever having a sexual relationship with Owen. Back home, Beth continues her research and hears the sound of footsteps from the floor above. Upon further investigation, she discovers what appears to be Owen's silhouette, which startles her by turning around to face her. Some hours later, she shares the most recent experience with Claire, who recommends she spend some time away from the house and invites Beth to stay with her for a while. Beth, who agrees with the suggestion, returns home to pack some personal items, but she gets distracted by the ghost and begins to confront it verbally, demanding to know the truth about Owen. Soon after, Beth is interrupted by the sound of Madeline unexpectedly knocking on the front door. Madeline confesses that she had once been invited over by Owen and they visited the reverse house together, only for him to later begin choking her while they were in the act of kissing, before abruptly stopping and apologizing profusely. After Madeline leaves, Beth returns to the reverse house and speaks out loud to the supernatural presence. Upon further investigation, she discovers hidden underneath the floorboards, multiple bodies of the women depicted in Owen's collection of photographs. Horrified, Beth rushes home and tries to contact Claire, but to no avail, as it is late at night, and her cell phone is routed to voicemail. Instead, Beth has another encounter with the apparition who leaves a message that reads "Here" wiped across the foggy bathroom mirror. After feeling the spirit's presence hovering nearby and believing it to be Owen, an emotional Beth extends her arms and reaches out to embrace it. The specter reveals that it is not the spirit of her husband when it produces visual flashbacks of Owen brutally attacking and murdering various women. Beth attempts to flee the house, but the doors are closed to trap her inside, and she is flooded with more visions of Owen's past misdeeds. Suddenly, Beth is attacked by the demonic presence, who drags her down the hallway in the same way Owen is seen accosting his victims. Next, while using Owen's body as a medium, the demon identifies itself as the literal nothing, the same empty chasm that Beth had seen for the 4 minutes that she was dead. Nothing proceeds on to explain that it had tried to coerce Owen to murder Beth, hoping that her spirit would then be returned to Nothing's empty realm. Instead, Owen resisted and took the steps to deceive Nothing by constructing the reverse house and killing multiple lookalikes of Beth. Eventually, Nothing figured out what Owen was doing, which culminated in Owen claiming his own life to protect Beth. The demon then suspends Beth in midair and begins to contort her body, trapping her in the same awkward position as the statue she retrieved from the reverse house. The following morning, after listening to Beth's voicemail, Claire arrives at the lake house and discovers evidence of a struggle the night before. After looking around further, she discovers that Owen's gun has gone missing from the evidence bag, and Beth is observed on the lake, sitting hunched over in the floating boat. Meanwhile, in a parallel dimension, Nothing tries convincing Beth to turn Owen's gun on herself. Claire and Mel rush out to the dock while calling Beth's name, just in time to snap Beth out of her trance. She returns to reality and Claire swims out to retrieve her from the boat, returning her to the dock where Mel is waiting to assist. There, the two women share an embrace, while Beth stares back at the boat floating in the water. Mel asks what Beth is looking at and says that nothing is there, to which Beth simply replies, "I know." Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to see more.